inclines and trains running already? Stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good evening everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly Model Railways. Now, before I start this video, I just want to give a massive thanks to everybody who gave a suggestion for the name of this layout. I am totally blown away by it. There were loads and loads and loads. Now, I think I've chosen a name, but I would like to hold off until next week because I'd like to get a plaque made and then reveal the name after that. Oh, welcome back. And as you can see, I've started the track laying process now. And it's starting to throw up one or two little minor issues. In the sense that, as I said in the previous video, I've got to accommodate 3 tracks up each of these bits, purely because I need that reversing loop to be long enough to accommodate a full-length train. That's the only reason. So it will have to come up here somewhat, and I don't know at the moment how much. It might be a case of setting the APT out and just judge that and work that out, because that at the moment is my longest train. But otherwise it will be a case of just having a few little bits of straight flexi in there and, you know, just working it out little bit by bit, and I'll get there. But I've made a start, that's the main thing. As by magic, the APT is now on the layout, so to speak. And it really does give the impression of where I do need to put the reverse loops. So I've just put, well, an extra, 4 inches there. It's probably similar just there. And I've just marked on the boards roughly where each of it, where it's got to come. And it probably gives about another 7 to 8 inches on top of the length of that. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really want trains any longer than that. But you might be saying to me, well, why am I doing it for the APT? It doesn't need to turn around as such. No, you're right, it doesn't, but it might be just easier instead of it going in one direction, stopping and then starting up in the other direction. It might be just easier to traverse the lines and then go back the other way. So it's then going back down to the traverser, which will be down there somewhere. But yeah, so anyway, that's that, and I'll crack on. One of the first things I've done is to identify what I've already got. Now, all of these curves here and the curves at the far end, they're all the brand new ones that I've bought. I bought a full circle of 4th radius and 3rd radius, but then it's a case of going through the rest. So all of that is 2nd radius, and there's one piece of 1st radius in there. Now, I'm not going to use those, so they're out. That's 3rd radius there, which I probably could use depending on the condition. And then you can see the assortment of points that I already have. There are some more in that bowl down there, which I took up yesterday when I stripped out that section just there. So they're soaking in water to remove the ballast, and then we'll take it from there. But I think I should have what I need. My only concern is, have I got enough to complete the reverse loop? I do know that I need 2 Y points, and they're on order with my local model shop, so they'll be with us perhaps next week, but when I get them, I don't know. It depends on when I'm in Northampton again, really, to be fair, but we'll just take it from there. I am going to put the track down kind of crudely at the beginning, because I want to get the trains running just to see and iron out initial issues, but I do want to start putting in the ramp, which is going to go down there, and there's going to be like a surface or a little, I suppose you could call it a shelf if you like. It depends on how far down it comes. Will depend on whether I come down to another level and then have a fiddle yard there and then go down another 2. I don't know at the moment. I've got to work that out. I've got a spirit level which measures in percentages. Charlie showed one on his channel as well, and this one was just a little bit cheaper, but it seemed to do the same thing. And people were raving about it in reviews, so I thought, well, I might as well save a few pennies at the same time. So as long as that works, we should be all right. And then it's a case of testing it. But yeah, I'd like to see if I can get track laid out today, and then at least get some trains running. You'll notice the 66 in the platform there. I just wanted to make sure that that piece of track still had the droppers connected to it, and the train will run on it, and it does. So all I'm going to do initially is just connect the track up to that and let that power the rest all the way around, and then I can start laying it properly in time. So that won't be done straight away. It might be a few weeks before I actually lay this track properly, if that makes any sense. Okay, right, let's move on then. So how about that then? As you can see, trains are running. Yes, indeed. And there's a number of reasons why I wanted to do this, apart from the satisfaction of, you know, you spend ages building and building, and then you suddenly want to see trains running. Yes, of course there's some of that in there, of course there is, but there's two other main reasons why I wanted to get the track at least laid out as it is. It's only the outside loop that's actually running. The rest of it, if you look at it, you see is literally just bits placed down there, but part of it is proof of concept. And I wanted to see, will this central reverse loop idea work? And so have I got enough space? Well, clearly I've got space on every one of these, so I can get a point in there, certainly get a point in on that one, and on that one. Now that one, I can physically do it. There's no problems with that, but obviously you can see the board does need, I need a new piece just making to fit in there. That won't be a problem whatsoever. With a little bit of support underneath, glue and screw, it'll be fine. So that's the only thing I need to do. But so that you, if you've missed the explanation of why I've done this, right, we've got the DMU coming round, so that can cross over somewhere about there onto this line, and then come down the middle line, so that'll be a Y point just there, and down the middle line, and then take a right at this other Y point around there. That joins you onto this line, and there'll be another crossover around there. So so you can either go straight round and carry on down this line, and you'll see that the train will have reversed its direction going that way now. But the other reason, I just mentioned this crossover, so the train would then go the wrong way down there, but then it comes to this point, which is where the ramp going down to the Fiddle yards is going to be. So my next job, and I'll probably do this tomorrow now, because there's some other things I need to do today. But to fit that ramp in, there'll be a lot of testing involved to make sure that trains will actually go up it. I've bought a spirit level that measures percentages. So hopefully with the aid of that physical testing, I should be able to work out whether a train's going to go up it or not. However, when I finally get round to putting the board in down there, which will be the first layer, so the ramp will come in here, go to that first layer, and there'll be a third radius curve going round there. Then I just need to, one, check how much space I've got from height-wise, but also I want to be able to stack a train up with its full train all the way around, and then will the locomotive pull it up the ramp and then onto the main line. And that is the main reason for having the trains running, because I want to be able to get it up the ramp with some momentum if need be, and then have it somewhere to go. I don't want to just do the ramp testing in isolation of everything else. So that is the other reason for setting up the track as it is. So there's three main reasons there for doing this. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. You can see, though, it is done very crudely. And as I've pointed out, using the DCC Gauge Master Combi, or DC Gauge Master Combi, I should say. And I've used all wooden track for this. Now, I do have a fair amount of concrete track, and it will be a case of swapping out the flexi track sections for the concrete when I'm finally there. But I'm just going to take my time. So hopefully you understand my logic in what I'm doing here, and I think it will work. And I just, you know, it is crazy stuff when you think about it. It was only 1 week ago when I actually started building this, and now I've got my first train running. It is crazy stuff. But as you can appreciate, when I get back to school, there's not going to be any energy, and I'm certainly not going to have time or energy to do any of the big stuff. I'm certainly not going to be getting saws out at the weekend and things like that. So I want to get all the big construction stuff done in the next week or so, and then little bits of fiddling about, laying a bit of track of an evening, I can do that. That's not a problem. The small stuff is all right, but not the big stuff. Right, anyway, let's crack on. Okay, then next up, I'm starting to think about the ramp coming down here. So you can see at that point there, I've put a bit of 2x2, which just happens to be around about 250 millimeters long. So half and half glued and, well, screwed each side, I should say. And the reason for that is because then it gives you a gentle curve coming off. The board then creates the curve as opposed to a sharp angle, which you would get if you just, well, fixed it in maybe in a different way. So that does work well. Now, the actual ramp itself is down there. I'll just pull the settee back a little bit. And then hopefully you can see, oops, what I've done there. So I took some of these 120 millimeter boards and I've cut them down on the table saw to 80. And then the other bit that had been cut off, I've then glued and screwed onto the edge, which then makes that nice and rigid. I watched Graham's video this morning because I thought it might be quite helpful to see the process that he went through. And Graham used some 3x2, which I'm not going to go out and buy more wood. I'll be honest, I'm going to use what I've got. And I think that will be just as strong as what Graham had. And all I need to do is then fit brackets to the sides. Oh, you can't see it particularly well, but just fit some brackets to the sides of the posts, and then those can then sit on top, and I can either put metal brackets on to screw it down or whatever. Now, the bit coming around the corner, I had to do some jiggery pokery, to be honest. I wanted to go for 2%, and it's not quite long enough by about, I don't know, half a centimetre. So I've gone to 3%. I've tested it with the Hush Hush on its own, I must say, and you can see that's there. I tested it with the DMU, you perhaps saw a bit earlier, and also something else which I've forgotten. But anyway, everything went up at no problems at all. Now, that's not with a train, that's just the locomotive. Now, if it proves that the steamer is struggling, there's a number of options. I can either bring it up and then have something else bring up the coaches and they can just connect up, or I can use a banking locomotive to push from behind, or your mind goes completely blank at that point and you can't think of the other thing that you were going to say, but never mind. So there was a piece of board or a piece of tube that went across there, so I've removed that. And also I've having to come out right from the very end because of the framework underneath. It's not low enough. So I'm having to take the train out of the end of the framework, and then I should just about manage to do it. And that does mean, though, that this post that I've got there, as you can see that, obviously this. I'm going to have to cut that off probably around about this point here. That's fine, and if need be I can always put a metal bracket in there if it's struggling or something like that, but I think it'll be absolutely fine. It is 12mm, and that board is fixed in a few places. It's not just relying on that one screw over there. It's, you know, there's a number of places, and there's a support that comes out here for quite a distance, so I could probably put another screw in probably around about there, remove that, and then that gives space for the train to come round. Now you might be thinking, what's this? Well, I'm not saying I'm not short on wood, but if I don't sort of use it conservatively, I will be. Now, I can't sensibly just put big lumps of board underneath there and it takes it up. I haven't got enough if I do that. So what I'm going to do is use some more of this 120mm strip that I've got, which, as you see, just there. And I've got some 2.4 lengths of that, probably about 3 or 4 of those left, plus some other bits. And I'm going to cut them into little segments like that. Now, what I did to work this out, obviously I've cut the paper to 120mm. I drew a line down the middle, and then I centred that line to the centre of the track, and again to the centre of the track just there. So that's in the centre there, and that line marks up with the centre of the track. And then obviously I've made some more, but the second piece obviously it overlapped, so then you've got a distance where it overlaps. So whatever that distance is there, you draw a line from the middle to this corner, and there's your angle, an instantly bisected angle. And so when I put that on a protractor to measure the angle, 80 degrees, I can't, you know, you can't make this stuff up. That's a lovely angle to be working with. I don't think there'll be a setting for it per se on the chop saw, but I can soon set that without any problems whatsoever. So that's, you know, there is a scale runs around the chop saw, but you get presets, don't you? And I don't think it's one of them, but certainly 80 degrees is marked. So I can just go around and make a load of these, and then just put some plates across the bottom of each one, glue and screw them together, and Bob again has become your favourite uncle. Right, this is a bit difficult to show, but hopefully you can see the ramp coming around the corner now through the framework. It is there, and coming out in there. So if I zoom out, hopefully you can see where I am. And that obviously goes around there and joins up with the ramp down there. And I'll probably will be taking this piece out or cutting it down, or replace it with a narrow bit, because it is a bit big and it is causing issues, I have to be honest. And if I go the other way, you can see the ramp is in all the way up to there. So hopefully you can see from my explanation in a previous clip how a train could go round, go onto the outside line, come back down here, and then down the ramp all the way round, and then come out there. That piece is then to join up with that going in there, just about missing that bit of beam there, and there'll be some, I say droppers, but pieces attached to the frame underneath like that, and that will be supporting that track bed. I've just made like wooden L shapes. I don't know whether you can make out that bit behind the clamp there, but there's a piece of 2x2 vertical, and then a piece of plywood just screwed to the bottom of it, and just make like it is quite a crude L shape, but it works, and that's all I'm bothered about really. Okay, let's crack on. Just to finish off then, as you can see, that was the last shot, and I've gone all the way down there now, but I've actually started laying the track, albeit screwed down, but nevertheless, the track's almost down. So anyway, you'll see that the next time. So take care of yourself and bye for now.